Who are you talking to besides us?
Not many people. Welcome back to the new season of BYOB, the Bring Your Own Book podcast. I'm Nikki.
I'm Kelly.
For our first episode back, we have a very special guest with us, Tilly.
Yay! Thanks for having me back.
It's so good to have you here. It feels right, too, to have you start the season with us, because this is, like, gonna be the first season where you're not with us all the time, so it's good to, like, have that, like, kickstart with you.
Yeah, I'll set the tone, and then you guys can just match it. How about?
Exactly.
We'll try.
Well, this week, we are doing something a little different. This is not our regular upload kind of schedule. We are doing we are going to be talking about our favorite books of 2022. And not just the books that we read for the podcast, because most of them were Lord of the Rings.
True.
But also just like books that we read on our own time. So we'll be giving you our top 5. And we will also be giving an honorable mention of the worst book that we read this year. So because we have a lot of ground to cover, we're going to hop right into it. And Tilly is going to give us her first book.
I actually kind of have like a little introduction to my books. Is that okay?
Yeah, no,
to like talk before I start talking
go.
about the books. Okay, so I'm just going to preface this by saying that we're almost at the end of December now, and I have read 82 books this year, which is so exciting for me. It has smashed my previous record, so it's already been a great reading year. And then I also got to discover so many wonderful new authors, and I reread so many of my old favorite books, and I got to read a lot of really great arcs from NetGalley. So I'm just like so happy with all the books I got to read this year. So we're going in strong. I'm already excited. It was really hard to just choose 5, but I'm going to go in chronological order because I can't differentiate any other way. So these are all 5-star books from me. None of them were from the podcast, so sorry. But I kind of figured we already talked about those enough.
Yeah.
So chronologically, my first favorite book that I read this year was Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. I read it in February of 2022, and I was like, holy moly, this is just an amazing work of fantasy. It's got everything. It's got like really a great, richly drawn world, intriguing characters, like magic, and just like really great first-person narration from this boy who grows up all alone in a court of people who want to exploit his connection to the throne. And it's just like, if you've never read a Robin Hobb book, you got to add it to your list. It's the first in her entire kind of series. I think she has 4 different series or 5 or 6 set in the same world, and this would be the chronological first one. And I loved it. There's a really signature Hobb ending, though, that will bring you to tears. So just get ready for that. I was not emotionally prepared, and I bawled my eyes out. But it opened up this whole new world for me of Robin Hobb's books, and I quickly bought probably 6 more of her books and have read a bunch of them, and I've introduced my dad to them as well, and he's now hooked, and he's very hard on books that he likes. So that's my first favorite book of the year.
Oh, I love that.
I've heard so many good things about Robin Hobb, but I am terrified to read her because yet again, there is another epic fantasy book that is thick. And I'm like, what? I don't know. Is this going to be...
It's not that thick.
No?
No, it was like 400 pages or something. It was very manageable.
Okay. And how is the language?
The language is very normal. It's kind of set in like a medieval kind of world, but everyone talks kind of normally. Okay. The fantasy elements aren't even really present for the most part until you get further on in this series. So it kind of reads almost like Game of Thrones, where it's kind of like medieval inspired. There is magic, but it's not like the entire purpose of everything. I don't know. I found it very easy to understand.
Okay.
But just slow pacing.
Okay. I'm okay with slow as long as it's like, wow, I'm so invested in this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's how I feel with Outlander. Like, I'm still not done Outlander at the time of this recording, but I'm at 70%, and I've just been like picking it up here and there this year, and I've really enjoyed it. So I'm just like enjoying taking my time, which is like so backwards for me. So yeah, but okay, cool. I want to try her.
I always look at that book and that series and I'm like, oh, that sounds so cool. And then I feel the same way as Kelly, which I feel like we at this point in our reading journey, even just like through this podcast, like, why are we still feeling intimidated by these books?
Yeah, you read all the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, like we've read the Lord of the Rings. Like, what else is there?
Yeah.
Like, that in itself is a challenge. We made it through the second book. Like,
we are learned
There's nothing
women.
harder than that.
We are learned women.
We read alien porn and Tolkien, so like, shut up.
We contain multitudes. Absolutely. Also, Nikki, I just noticed you're wearing that cute sweatshirt. Eee!
I am. I'm wearing the sweater that Tilly bought me for Christmas a couple years ago. I love it.
I wish it was black, but it came in white, and what can you do?
It's fine.
Dye it.
White's good too sometimes.
Yes.
Okay, Kelly, it's your turn. Your first book.
Okay.
Oh, actually, maybe tell us how many books you've read. I like that Tilly gave us a little... Like, who are we going to brag to about how many books we've read if it's not going to be on this podcast? Because when I talk to people in my normal life, they're like, I don't give a shit, or you need to get a life.
Who are these people?
Right?
How dare they?
Who are you talking to besides us?
Not many people.
Truth. No. So this year, one of my reading goals was to actually track everything I read on Goodreads, because last year I tracked everything in my reading journal, but I was like too scared to track some of the steamier things on Goodreads just in case my sister was like, what the hell is this? But she's never done that. And if she does, how dare you? How dare you? So this year I tracked everything, and I have read 118 books as of this recording date.
Oh my God.
So,
amazing.
Yeah. I think last year I read in my reading journal, like the official count, I think was like 117. So I'm ahead of it. So
Hallelujah.
I have upped myself by at least one. And I actually had a pretty good reading year. I'm really surprised, because at the end of the year, when I look back, I'm like, what did I read? You know, like, I don't know. But I think overall my ratings were pretty high, which I was really surprised about. So I actually had a hard time picking my least favorite, surprisingly. But
oh my God, who are you?
I know. The girl who loves to rant. I'm like, what did I not like? But
Proud hater. Love it.
I'll tell you what I hated later. So
Great. Off the air? Okay.
yes, no. On air.
Oh, of course. Right. Sorry. Save it for the podcast.
My first favorite read of the year, unlike Tilly, I'm not doing it chronologically. However, the 4 that I'm saying first, I couldn't rank really because I wasn't really sure, but my top one is for sure the top one. So at number 5, we'll say, is Beach Read by Emily Henry. It didn't come out this year, but I read it this year, and it's just... I think it's going to be a comfort read. Like, I am so happy I read it. It was everything I wanted. And I just have like such warm, fuzzy feelings whenever I think about it. You have a situation that you might not think is romantic, but Emily Henry makes it work because she is a magician. Like, have you read it yet, Tilly? I don't remember.
I haven't. No.
Okay.
I'm so thrilled to hear you loved it so much.
It. Yeah, you're going to love it.
I just know.
It's so good. I always say she's the Nora Ephron of books. Like, she just writes such complex characters who you care about, and they're like real. Like, they don't seem like, oh, these are fictional characters. Like, they're just so complex, so real, and the romance was just right. Like, there's not a lot of steam, but what is there is just so nice, and there's some really nice lines, and I'm like, oh my God.
I know. It's like one of my favorite romance books that I've ever read. And I think what makes it one of my favorites is because it's just a really good book.
Yeah.
It just happens to have romance in it.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness. I wish I could read it for the first time all over again.
Oh my God. I'm so excited to read it.
It's so good. And like, whenever I tell people to read it, I always preface it with, don't go in thinking it's a beach read, because I know it's called beach read, but I do know some people like Jess, who we've had on the podcast. She did not like this book, and she was expecting it to be like a beachy summer read, because it's called beach read, but it takes place at a lake. Okay, so it's a different kind of beach, and we have two people living in cabins next to each other, and they're dealing with real life issues. Like, she's dealing with a dad who just passed away, who she found out cheated on her mom, and she's staying in his cabin that he used to bring his mistress to all the time, and that was like his secret life, and that's where she's trying to write her book. And it's like enemies to lovers, just it's so good. So that's one of my favorite reads this year.
Oh, I'm thrilled. I read Book Lovers this year and really loved it, and I just know I'm gonna love everything that she writes.
It's so good.
I have a copy, haven't read it yet, of Beach Read. So excited now.
Yeah. And I have to say quickly, on the sweatshirt note, my sister got me a Book Lovers sweatshirt for Christmas, and it's like periwinkle blue with embroidery on it. That's the bookstore in Book Lovers, and it's so cute. Yeah,
I love that.
It's so nice. I'll show you guys
so
after.
adorable.
It's so nice. Yeah. Nikki, why don't you tell us about one of your favorite books?
I will. So I've read 87 books so far this year.
Oh my god, amazing.
My goal was 60, and so I attribute that wholly to Kindle Unlimited. So thank you, Kindle Unlimited, for sponsoring my reading life the second half of 2022, because holy shit, I can't get enough of that. I'm going to town on Kindle Unlimited, and I have some Kindle Unlimited picks on this list. Yes. But this one is not from Kindle Unlimited.
Okay, noted.
It's a horror book that came out this year called Mother Thing by Ainsley Hogarth. And oh my god. For people listening, anybody who likes kind of more physical horror with some paranormal, chilling. From the minute the book started, I was like, I felt grossed out. Ooh. I felt like, ooh, what's going on? Slimy. I don't know what it was, but so the whole book revolves around a couple, Abby and Ralph, and they live with his mother, who is mentally unwell, and the book opens with the mother committing suicide, and she passes away. And then her ghost haunts the house, and she hates Abby. So she's trying to pull Ralph in, and Abby's trying to battle her in this like game of wits and mothering. And it is, I don't know. I can't even explain the like feelings and where the title comes from when you're reading it. It really just like hits like what is a mother? Mm-hmm. And is a mother always like the person that raises you, or do you attribute your mother to be like something else in your life that's just comforted you? It's got so many things, so many layers. It is really it's not like really graphic, but the way that Ainsley Hogarth writes hits really deep. So if you're a horror fan, I would definitely suggest this book.
Sounds like Monster-in-Law, but like supernatural. You know, like crazy.
The Jane Fonda movie.
And like turn it up to 11.
I remember seeing that book at work, and the cover is so cool, and I was like, Nikki would like this. Like, I read the back blurb is like, it's not a synopsis, it's like a little excerpt from the book, and I was like, oh, this is creepy. So,
it sounds creepy.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds super intense.
Cool.
I probably will not read it, but I'm really happy you loved it.
That's why I decided to get out of the way first, because I was like, I know maybe I could talk Kelly into reading it at some point, but I'm like, I know Tilly's going to be like, no, that's a hard pass.
I'm sorry, I like what I like.
That's
well,
okay.
But we're back to what you like. So please give us your next favorite book.
I will. And I will say, I think I have pushed outside my own genre limitations this year a little bit more, and have enjoyed a lot of the books and some of the thrillers that we've read for the podcast, or I guess maybe just one thriller. I really enjoyed that. So maybe I shouldn't be so quick to judge on if I think a book sounds scary. So maybe I will read it sometime just to prove you wrong. Prove myself wrong. Okay, so my second book I really loved this year, I read it in March 2022, and it was Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. I actually got to read this as an ARC from NetGalley, and I had previously read another book of hers, Station 11. I've read it a couple times. I really loved it, and I just knew I would really enjoy this book, and I absolutely did. I find that her writing, it's sci-fi, but it's also like really literary, so I don't even know if I could really call it just straight science fiction. But this book had pandemics, it had moon colonies, it had like so much humanity in the characters, and a bunch of kind of different timelines that were threaded together in a way that you didn't understand until close to the end. Which kind of reminds me of Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell, which is another one of my really favorite books. So I really love her writing. I find her writing to be so ethereal, but really grounded at the same time. And it wasn't a very long book. It was quite short, I think, actually, like maybe like 250 pages or something, but I felt so impacted by it, and I'm still thinking about it, and I read it in March of 2022, and I also went out and bought myself a hardcover copy, even after I read the advanced reader copy, because I just needed to have it on my shelves. So I really loved Sea of Tranquility. I've been recommending it to all sorts of people, and I'll read anything that Emily St. John Mandel writes, because I think she's wonderful.
Cool.
And Canadian.
I was going to say, isn't she Canadian? Yeah.
And she liked a tweet that I tweeted at her not too long ago, and so I basically am famous.
Oh my god, you're like BFFs. Yeah.
She was looking for book recommendations for her nephew, and I suggested Airborne by Kenneth Apple, which is one of my favorite childhood reads, and she liked it. So
that's a big deal. Honestly, I'm always like, when I recommend things to people, and especially people I don't know, if they like it or they're like, oh my god, this is so great, thank you so much, I'm like I'm touched, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I will say, just along the same thread, there was a thread on Twitter about books that people couldn't remember the names of, but they remembered the synopsis, and I solved one of them for somebody, and it made me feel like the biggest superhero in the world. It was somebody who was looking for a book. They're like, I know it's carrier pigeons and a princess, and there was maybe a character named Beelzebub, and it was popular around the time of Ella Enchanted, and I was like, that's Once Upon a Marigold by Jean Ferris. And then a bunch of people were so excited to like have that name, and now they're maybe gonna go out and read the book again. It brings me so much joy. Anyway.
So cute.
I love that.
Thanks. Well, my next read, okay, this is a series. I'm not done it yet, but I read a lot of series this year, or I started a lot of series, and this one is the Witch Hat Atelier series by Kamome Shirahama. I hope I'm saying that right, but it's a manga series, and it is so freaking good. Oh my god, it's like Howl's Moving Castle, cozy fantasy vibes. And the artwork is incredible. It's just so unique and creative. It's about this little girl, I think she's like 12 years old maybe, and her name is Coco. And she loves magic. She's obsessed with magic. Witches are not like a hidden thing in their world, but there are a lot of rules, and people who aren't magical can't witness how they do magic, because then they can try to use it themselves, and like all these things. But Coco's been obsessed with magic since she was a little kid. She got like this book from this sketchy guy on the street, like just selling his wares, and he's like, oh, you like magic? Here's a magical book and a pen. You can like create spells with this. And so she tells her mom, and her mom's like, well, you weren't born a witch, so you can't do magic, honey. And she's like really upset by this. Yeah. And so later on, she finds out that I think she like sees someone do magic or something, and she's like, oh my gosh, the pen is the wand, and like you have to draw things and write things and whatever. And so she does something, and this spell turns the house into like this huge tower thing, like shit goes down, and her mom turns into stone. And so then she is taken under the wing of this witch who he has a witch hat atelier where he like trains witch apprentices. And it's so nice. It's just like cozy fantasy. Yes, there is danger, but it's just so whimsical. And I just can't get enough of it. I've read the first 4, and right now there's 10 that are currently available for English readers, and it is so good. I highly recommend. Love it to bits.
That sounds so cute.
It is
I'm
so
so
nice.
excited to read it. I literally have it right behind me on my nightstand right now.
It's so good. And like even just all of the world building, like the sigils that they draw, because they teach you about the magic system in the book because she's learning, right? And she's, I forget what they call her, but like she's not a born witch. So the other apprentices are like, what? She's not supposed to be here, kind of thing. And like, you know, but she makes friends. And it's like Kiki's Delivery Service, but not. Like, it's just so cute and just so whimsical and fun. And the creatures are so cool. Like, it's just so imaginative. And I think that's really hard to do in fantasy because there's so many huge players that everyone draws inspiration from. And that's fair. And I think that makes sense. But it's hard to like do your own thing in this genre. So yeah, I love it. I think you'll love it, Nikki. I think you'll love it, Tilly. Like, it's so good. So, yeah.
Oh, it sounds so cute. You're convincing me to read manga.
So
I usually need, like, more meat in my... I just need more pages, usually. But that sounds adorable.
This has a good plot. Like, it is very... there's a lot of dialogue. It's not a lot of just artwork panels. Like, yeah.
Good. I just need more content. I'm like, if I'm going to become obsessed with something, I need there to be a lot of content that I can binge.
Yes.
Cute.
Okay. So, my first Kindle Unlimited pick here.
I can't wait.
Kelly read these after I wouldn't shut up. This is a series, but I will just kind of like touch on the first one. But I don't know what the series is called, but the first book is called The Never King, and it's by Nikki St. Crow. And it is a Peter Pan retelling where everybody is of legal consenting age. And
Important to know.
I'm going to say that right now before I tell you what happens in the book. The premise is Peter Pan has lost his shadow, and now he cannot go in the light anymore, and he's losing his magic and his ability to control Neverland. So every time a darling woman is born, not just a darling woman, darling with a capital D, like Wendy's and Wendy's descendants. Every time one of her descendants is born, she gets kidnapped on her 18th birthday and brought to Neverland to be tortured for the secret of where Wendy took his shadow. But now in this one, we get a twist, a reverse harem spicy situation with Peter Pan, the twins, and a new character named Vane, who has the dark shadow of his own island, but he is Peter Pan's kind of right-hand man, and he has this like darkness lingering in him. Who doesn't love it?
Ever?
Chef's kiss. We see them all kind of like become close. There's obviously some spicy stuff going on.
Some.
Like,
Quite a bit.
Okay, this is a novella, people. There's like a lot. A lot of shit happens in those like 182 pages. And oh my god, just so bingeable. I read the first 2 books in one day and then had to wait a whole month for the third one to come out. And it sounds like there might be more. So,
there's definitely going to be more, because that cliffhanger, I was like, what the fuck?
Right? Oh my god. But if you need like a mindless read, fun, kind of, you're into it right away because you know the lore of Peter Pan. So it's, oh my god, it's so good.
I will say it's a dark romance.
Oh,
so
yes,
if you go
it
with,
is, it's like, what do they call it? Like, I don't know the word for it, but there's some stuff that's kind of like dubious
Questionable.
consent situations and some like I'm saying no but I mean yes situations. So if you're not into that, I mean there's warnings when you go into Kindle Unlimited, and there's warnings in the book before you start reading. But yes, it is dark and it is not for everybody. But if it is for you, it is very good and you will love it.
Yeah, like I
I'm
don't
intrigued.
Yeah, like I don't normally read that kind of book, but Nikki was talking about it and I was like, this is gonna be a wild ride. I'm just gonna go for it. And it was really bingeable. Like some parts I was like, what is this? But like I had a great time. It was so like wild. It was over the top, ridiculous, just like steamy, yeah, crazy. Like so hey.
Yeah.
Don't mind if I do. And I did.
I love it.
Okay, so my third really great book that I read this year, I read this in May 2022, and it's Siren Queen by Niveau. This is also an arc from NetGalley. What is going on? I read so many good advanced reading copies. Anyway, this is an amazing, like, historical, dark, magical fantasy. It takes place in 1930s Hollywood, and we follow an ambitious young Chinese-American actress who's falling in love with the other actresses and clawing her way to fame on, like, her own terms. So it was really kind of unheard of at the time. Obviously, this is not reality. This is historical, or not. This is fictional, but there's a historical element in that it is set in the 1930s. Anyway, Niveau's Hollywood is a place of monsters and worshippers, desperate bargains, and wild bonfires, and I really, really loved reading about it. The story is told as just one large flashback, so you get all this foreshadowing and interjections from the older protagonist, and I really loved the writing. I was really savoring everything, reading a little bit at a time and just letting it sit with me. I think I've actually read everything that Niveau has written, mostly this year. I really got into her work, and I also read The Empress of Salt and Fortune. I think it's the Singing Hills cycle. There's 3 novellas that I all read this year as well, that I really loved as well. But Siren Queen is the big one for me. Also, the cover art is so stunning. It's just like this face in kind of this bluish, like filmic kind of photo, and there's like smoke curling around. It's beautiful. Anyway, I really love the book. Nikki, I think you would have liked it too. Kelly, you probably would too. But that's my third read. I read it in May 2022, so there's my chronology intact.
Okay. Ooh. And is this, am I correct remembering, was it like a Great Gatsby kind of?
No, she did write a Great Gatsby retelling called The Chosen and the Beautiful, which I think I read last year, which I didn't like as much, but I still liked it.
Right. Okay. That was the one that was like kind of about Jordan Baker, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this one I felt like I think The Chosen and the Beautiful might have been her first full-length novel, and this, I think, Siren Queen was maybe her second or third, and so I think she'd kind of learned a lot. I just felt like the character didn't work as well in The Chosen and the Beautiful, or there were some like questions that I had, but I really got into Siren Queen. I loved it.
Okay, cool.
I'm gonna check it out for sure.
Yeah.
My next choice is another series. However, I have read it all, so I can tell you all about it. It is a trilogy so far. I hope there's more because I need more in my life. Like, I am so upset that I'm done. Like, I have thought about rereading this probably at least once a week since I've finished. And I actually plan on rereading the entire series on December 31st, so that it's like my last read of the year because I love it so much. And that would be the Tea Dragon Society trilogy, we'll say. It is so incredible. It's another cozy fantasy. This one is by Kay O'Neill. And their artwork is just so beautiful and cute. And oh my god, it's about this little society who they have tea dragons that you need to befriend and form bonds with in order to make their tea leaves grow, which the tea leaves grow like kind of at the crown of their heads or like on their horns kind of thing. And as they grow and as your bond with them grows and deepens, you can like trim the leaves and steep tea. And when you drink the tea, you get your memories, like they flood through you while you drink the tea of like the memories you had with your tea dragon. And it is so sweet. Oh my god. So the first book is called Tea Dragon Society, and it sets up the world, and you meet like the first 4 different types of tea dragons, because there's a different type of dragon for each type of tea. So like there's an Earl Grey one, there's hibiscus, peppermint, jasmine, rooibos, all sorts of stuff. And they all look different, and they're super cute, and they have different sizes, kind of like Pokemon.
Yeah, it sounds like, where's the merch? Like, that sounds so merchandisable.
No, there are plushies. I don't have any, but I would not hate getting one. Hint, hint, anybody listening? Scott, no. But
we're 4 days from Christmas.
Yes. It's okay. I'm a grown woman. I can get my own plushies, but it's okay.
That's right.
But I do have, they have a card game they have 2 of them, and they're like the main one and then an expansion, and I have both of them. We play them all the time because it's super easy, low stakes, but a lot of fun, and it's just so cozy and cute. But the books are the Tea Dragon Society, Tea Dragon Tapestry, and Tea Dragon Festival, and each book has a different message, and these books are meant for kids traditionally, but I read them as an adult, clearly, and I had such an amazing time reading them. They cover topics like identity, finding your own family, sense of belonging, keeping traditions, starting a new path in your life. Like, it's just, oh my gosh, it's so well done and just so thoughtful and heartwarming and touching, honestly. Like, I got a little teary reading the last one because it was just the perfect time in my life, like going through a career change and just like lots of change in my life this year. It was so good. And yeah, I can't say enough good things about them. Like, they're amazing, and I'm going to reread them today, I guess, like today, the day this episode comes out, and I'm going to finish my year with my cozy tea dragons. I can't wait.
I love that. Yeah, I really liked those. Yeah. The third one was definitely my favorite. And one of the things I liked the most about the series was just the fact that they had people of different abilities, people who were deaf, people who were in wheelchairs, people who were gay, who were straight. Like, they had
black,
so many different...
white.
Yeah, like they just had like such an amalgamation of different identities, but they weren't portrayed as like, I'm in this book because I want to show you that 2 men can love each other or whatever. It was just like, this is life, and these are people that you're going to encounter, and this is like them living their life, which I think is so important for kids, and even for adults, honestly, because we're bombarded with so much content that's like, this is about me being this thing. It's never like, I happen to be this thing, but also this is like my life. This is just a story about things that are happening to me.
Yeah.
So I really appreciated that part, and I just thought, oh my god, the pictures were like so cute.
Yeah, I want a
Everything
video game.
about it was so
I want
cute.
a TV show. I want blankets. I want plushies. I want everything. I want everything, please. I want tea mugs or cups. Like, I want everything. Tea steeper thingies, like the little balls, like the mesh things. I want them all. Okay.
Oh my god,
You're
how
a
cute
cricket
would
girl.
it be?
Get it going.
I can't make a
you could
mug
get,
out of...
like-
Well, I guess I can, yeah.
You can.
Okay,
How
sorry.
cute would it be if you got like a chia pet thing of it, but like leaves came out of the like horns, so it's like the tea leaves coming out of like the tea.
I haven't even read them, and I'm like tearing up just thinking about that idea.
Really? You will love them.
I'm sure-
They're little mini dragons.
Oh my god, everything you're talking about, I'm like, those are all my favorite things. I love
You
tea,
love
love
them.
dragons, love, love cute things. Like,
I love love.
It's so good. It's so good. Anyways, Nikki, go.
Yeah. So my next pick is The Shadow House by Anna Downs. I read this as an arc from NetGalley, and this is a mystery thrillerish, I don't know. It was thrilling at times, but it was like a mystery. It was a mystery book. I couldn't put this book down. I think from like the first chapter I was hooked. So we have a mother and her 2 children, a boy who I think is around the age of 12, and her daughter who is fairly young, like a baby. And she's looking to escape her life, and she goes to this rural community where they're all about like farming and agriculture. It's a little culty, but it's not a cult. And I went into the book being like, this is a cult. Totally tricked me. They're just nice people who happen to like farming. That's fine.
Thank goodness.
Right? But there's a folk tale in the town about this witch who will like steal children. And there's this old abandoned house, and so she starts to uncover secrets about what happened in this home, and everybody's really like elusive and won't talk about what happened up there. Things come to a head. I really can't say more than that because it's just going to start giving things away. But the twists in this book, it was like one after the next, after the next, after the next, and I was eating it up. At no point was I like, this is getting ridiculous. I was all about this book. Oh my god. Obsessed.
Wow.
But I feel like I can't say anything more, which is so hard when we're talking about books in this way, because I want to tell you all the things so you want to read it. But then also if I tell you all the things, then what's the point? Because it's a mystery. So, you know?
Is it out yet?
It's out.
Okay.
I think it came out in May or June of this year. I read it in I think I read it in February.
Okay.
But yeah, it was so good. You get, there's multiple perspectives in the book as well. So each chapter is told by a different person. And you don't really know how everybody's interconnected, so that in itself is its own little mystery going through. But yeah, the Shadow House.
Sounds like it reminds me, the way you're talking about it, I know you can't give us too many details, but it sounds like it has similar vibes to The Family Upstairs.
It is. It had a very realistic quality like The Family Upstairs.
Okay.
In that, with the twists and stuff, I felt the same way where everything, even though they were throwing things at you, everything felt very plausible. Like, oh, I can totally see why people would have thought this thing, but it's actually this thing, and all of that. So I would say it's kind of similar. Like, if you like The Family Upstairs, you will really like The Shadow House.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds cool.
Super cool.
I'm excited. Yeah.
I like that it tricked you. Like,
my
if you think
God.
it's going one way and then it's a different thing.
Oh my god, it tricked me like 5 times. That's why I couldn't put it down. I think I finished it at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I couldn't make myself go to the bathroom because I was wigged out.
Oh no.
Yeah, but that's like the best feeling though, when something like gets you that invested and that into the world. Things like that for me just happen to be scary things. People probably get like that with happy things too, which would be nice, honestly.
You do sometimes. You were just talking about the tea dragons.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I love that.
It is funny how how predictable I found myself as I was looking at my 5 favorite books. I was like, oh cool, they're all like fantasy sci-fi that are like kind of cozy, with a notable exception that we're going to get to in a minute.
Ooh.
Is it me?
Yeah, it's you.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can get to it now if it's the one that you're going to talk about.
No, it's going to be my last one.
Okay.
No, I'm going to keep that secret just a little bit longer. Okay, so my 4th book is extremely a cozy book.
Ooh.
It's A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. It is the cozy, hopeful, poignant, existential sci-fi of my dreams. I read like the first 5 pages and I was like, oh, this is a 5-star read immediately. Absolutely. No question. I read it in July 2022, and it's a novella. There are 2 of them out now. I really loved the second one as well. Maybe like not quite as much as I loved the first one, because, you know, when there's always introductions, like the first is always, I don't know, that's always my favorite. Okay, so we're in a society where we're very far in the future, and robots have like come and gone. So robots have gained sentience, but then decided to leave society and just go and like make their way in the wilderness and like find out their existence or whatever. So humanity has not seen robots in a very long time. There's other things happening. We're following a monk who makes tea, and so similarities to the tea dragons here.
Basically
they kind of travel around.
Yeah.
Yeah, they travel around their cute little tea cart and like serve tea to people, and it's kind of like a therapy thing. Like people come to the tea cart to like have a quiet moment to themselves and like ponder, and meanwhile the monk is like also kind of going through some like existential questions. The monk's name is Dex, and then they run into a robot who has like been kind of in the wilderness, and no one's seen one for like hundreds of years, and the robot's name is Mosscap, and it wants to know like what humanity needs. And so Dex and Mosscap just start traveling around and trying to like learn a little bit about each other, and also kind of learn about I don't know, like their existence. It's so hard to explain, but it's so beautiful, and I'm just like tearing up just thinking about Mosscap, who is named after a mushroom, because that was the first thing it saw when it opened its eyes. That's the robot naming convention. So the robots are all named funny things like red-breasted sparrow, because that was the first thing it's
red-breasted what? Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if there is a red-breasted sparrow. I think I made it up. I don't know that much about birds. I'm sorry to all the ornithologists out there.
I was going to say ornithologist. I know that word now. Thank you.
A callback for the niche listeners.
For the OG listeners, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, this book is like the ultimate cozy fantasy vibes. I wept when I finished it. It was so beautiful and lovely, and it's the only Becky Chambers book I've ever read, but I'm definitely, well, I guess I read both of them, but I know she has a whole other series that's a little hardcore sci-fi that's like in space. I haven't read that one, but I'd really like to, and I loved this book.
Cool. I've seen that all over Goodreads, so yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I have it on Kobo, but I asked for a hardcover copy for Christmas, because I'm like, I just need to have this. I need to have it on my shelves. I need to look at it and feel nice thoughts.
I feel like it sounds like something that like I'd want to read if I want to have a little cry for some reason. Like, I don't know, but I really like
deep
that
read. Yeah. It's not sad. Like it's very heartwarming and beautiful, but you will have a little cry, and that's nice sometimes.
For sure.
I try to avoid crying at all costs, because once it starts, it don't stop. So
yeah.
Usually I read happy things, or like I'd rather be like tense and stressed than upset.
Fair.
I don't think this is upsetting. I think it's like it's beautiful. I'm a crier, so I cry at like every single possible emotion. That's just how my body processes emotions, so it cries.
Same.
Yeah, and this is like, it was a lot of happy tears and like, oh my god, that's so beautiful.
Oh.
Yeah.
I love that. Oh,
that makes me feel better.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. My second top book, my penultimate favorite read of the year.
Ooh.
Penultimate. I love it.
That's a good one, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I kind of picked this because I didn't know what to do, because it's part of a series, but then I thought, no, you know what? This is what got me started. I freaking love it. I think about it all the time, so I'm just going to say yes. Say yes and, okay? So, I don't say yes and, I say, then what? So...
Oh yeah, she's different.
Yes. So, my penultimate favorite read of 2022 is Devil in Winter by Lisa Kleypas. So, I am a changed woman after this book. I swear. Maisie Eddings came on our podcast, and we asked her for book recommendations, you know, as we do. And she recommended Lisa Kleypas. And Tilly was like, oh, Lisa Kleypas is so good. And I was like, I don't know who this is. And I I think before I read this book, I had only read maybe one historical romance, and it was this year. So this year was my first tiptoe into that subgenre.
Whoa, what a tiptoe.
Yeah, and then I just plunged right in with Devil in Winter, and oh boy, I loved it, okay? It is so freaking good. I can't believe that Lisa Kleypas had the hero call the heroine a bitch, and I still loved him. Like, I can't. She's so good. Her writing is fantastic.
She's a wizard, yeah.
Oh my god. So far this year, I've read 5 or 6 of her books, and I've loved them all. I think the lowest rating I've given them, the last one I read was a 3.5, and I didn't hate it. I was just like, this wasn't as good as her other ones, so that's not bad. But Devil in Winter is part of the Wallflower series, and it's these 4 girls who are friends, and 2 of them are sisters, but they're wallflowers, so like they don't talk to men, they don't court, they don't whatever, they're just like happy to sit on the wall together and like hang out, but they need to get married because back in the Disney they had to get married. So this is the 3rd one in the series, and I started with number 3, but it didn't matter, I was not lost. And it's about Evie, who is super shy. She barely talks to people, even her fellow wallflower friends, and she has a lot of money, but she still has to get married because, you know. And so she decides to find a man who is of noble ranking, who is in desperate need of money, and that will enable her to get away from her terrible guardians, who are her aunt and uncle, who are like super abusive, like physically, emotionally, any way you can be abusive, they are to her. And so she marries this vicious rake named Lord St. Vincent. And oh my, her deal with him is, I will consummate this marriage, but then that's it. You're not going to get anything else. And he's like, oh yeah, okay. And she holds true to it until later. And she's just like, yeah, I just need to protect me from my terrible family, and I will let you use my wealth. And that's the deal. And he slowly changes from this really like selfish, awful guy who's like, you know, devilishly charming, Devil in Winter, to this still kind of little devilish man, but better. And there was some dubious consent, but it wasn't, I think it was just when it was written, honestly. And I think it would have helped if during the sex scenes we had a bit more of like Evie's inner thoughts, because it was a lot of like, oh no, oh. But I'm like, but she clearly is enjoying it because everything that's written down is like she's clearly having a great time. So I think it was a lot of like, oh no, we shouldn't, and not like, no, stop. But if it had just been worded maybe a little more clearly, people would maybe not be so confused. I was fine with it. Lisa Kleypas is a master, honestly. Like, wow. Chef's kiss, 10s across the board. I had an amazing time. Like I said, she had the guy call the woman a bitch, and I was still like, yep, I am down for this relationship. So, and
that's the magic right there.
Right one.
Yes.
Yeah.
The actual quote, I have it right here. She's like, I don't want to have sex with you because you're a dog, basically, and like, I only want to have sex with you if you're gonna be monogamous. That's not the quote. But then he says, just because I've never tried doesn't mean that I can't, you judgmental bitch. And I'm like, oh my god. But he goes on to say, well, you called me a dog, so I was just going with metaphor. But I'm like, no. But Lisa Kleypas is that good at sexual tension, at like sensuality, that I was just like, hey, I would take his apology. I would run with it.
I would. Amazing.
I would.
So good.
I would.
I am so excited to read that. I've only read 2 Lisa Kleypas. I think I always forget their names because they all sound the same to me. But like Till There Was You and Dreaming of You, or like Till We Met for the First Time or something. I forget.
Then Came You.
Yeah. Then Came You. No, that's a different one. I don't know. Anyway, they all kind of sound the same after a while. But I also love her books. I think she is a master of historical romance.
Good. So good. Oh my god. Oh.
So I'm excited to read that series because sounds great.
Oh my god. I'm collecting all of her books in first edition with the step backs, and I will not be stopped.
Ooh.
I will not be stopped. I'm on a mission.
Wow, what a good mission.
Thank you. It's my mission. Anyways. With that, Nikki.
Well, my mission is to read every book Rena Kent has ever written. And so this is another Kindle Unlimited find. Okay. And though this is... So the series I'm going to talk about is Legacy of Gods.
Okay.
But, so the way that the series is written is each book is about a different couple, but they're all in all the books. So it's like friend group kind of things. But there are series preceding that are about their parents. So we have all the parents getting together in their series, and then this in two different series. And then this series amalgamates those two, and the children of those two sets of characters meet. So we have two universities on Brighton Island. One of them British kids go to, and the other one American kids go to. And the British kids are all super wealthy. They have this kind of club called the Elites, and they do kind of shady shit. And then the Americans, there is basically a mafia gang that's like the Bratva from New York. Their kids are going there and have their own kind of mafia ring. And they're enemies, but slowly the dudes from the mafia start shacking up with the girls from the British school, and chaos ensues. This is a super, super duper dark romance series. The first book starts off with like, I was also not okay with this. No consent. It was like a no consent situation.
Uh-oh.
And then it turned around and I was like, oh, so what? You're a sociopath. I don't even care because I love you. And here we are. Oh, I read all 3 books that are currently out in that series, and then I've gone back and have read 4 books in the first series because I'm determined to work my way through. So we have a lot of like familial drama and like, my parents are dead and my parents hurt me and this is why I have these emotional things happening, and then like, this is the only way I can love you, and like, I don't even know what love is, and like shit like that.
50 Shades of fucked up. I
am eating it up. Oh my god, there is something like so addictive about, like, especially because you know that the characters are going to get together in the end. Like, what's the point of the book if they don't ultimately end up together? So the whole time you're reading all of this stuff, and you know, every book, they like, a situation happens and then they're not together anymore because it's like unforgivable, and how can they even look at the person in the face, and then something happens and it's like, oh, it's a misunderstanding and we're gonna be together in the end. And I'm like, yes, I need it all. And every book is the same format, and I still am like, what's gonna happen? So yeah, anyway, I'm about it. Rena Kent, she's doing something right. She has like, it's like 15 books. So
oh wow.
Oh
yeah. Isn't that the best when you find a series that is like, you're loving it and you find out there's so many books?
Oh my god, honestly, it made my life, because I read the first 2 in October, the end of September, in the Legacy of the God series, and then had to wait until November for the 3rd one to come out. And then I was like, what am I gonna do until the 4th one? And I happened to just click on her website, and it was like reading order, and it was like, this series about these people's parents, and then this series about these people's parents, and I was like, I could just start all the way at the first.
Oh.
Like, it's like Christmas in November.
It's like your own multiverse.
Yes. Like, I cannot stop thinking about these books.
I saw her on our Instagram feed and I was like, who is this? Did I like this page? I don't know. Because she was like showing a blurb or like a quote from her newest book coming out, and I was like, I am intrigued. And I saw, but then I was like, wait, this looks familiar. And I saw your your archived story of like these books that I just read, you know, or like your monthly reads, and then it all came together. So I'm like, interesting.
Yeah. They definitely, like, the very first one in this series, like I said, it started off with a situation that I was like not comfortable with reading. I felt kind of like gross about it, but then it, like, you know, obviously it gets kind of cleared up and I ended up really liking the book. But other than that one, all of the other books have been like consensual dark things happening the whole time, not like there might be like dubious consent, but within the framework of the story there's like an understanding that like that is what is like wanted by both characters. So other than that first one, I was like the first like 50 pages of that first one, they've all been like very dark and definitely not for the faint of heart or people who are maybe a little more naive.
Clutch the pearls.
Yeah. But oh my god, fire reads.
Oh my god, I love that. I will look into some of those titles.
Yeah, they sound fun.
Yeah, they're very fun. Now, before we get to our favorites, or in Tilly's case, her last favorite.
Thank you for indulging me.
We are going to take a moment to just briefly throw out what's the worst book that we've all read this year. I feel like there's a chance that Kelly and I might have the same one. But we shall see. Tilly, why don't you start us off?
All right, so I unfortunately had a couple of different contenders for this. I'm not really calling it like worst book. I think I'm going to call it a book that let me down. Because listen, I was not going into this book thinking it was going to be great fiction. I was going there for sexy fantasy vibes. So I read Neon Gods by Katie Robert in October 2022. When I tell you I waited so long to get this library hold in because I was like, I'm interested in reading it, I'm not going to purchase it. And I expected it to be a spicy Hades and Persephone retelling, which is exactly, it is how it's marketed. It is very, very sexy. There's a lot of sexy things that happen, but it just isn't a retelling at all. Like there's no way. There are some like cool potential ideas, but they're just not explored. And everyone just happens to have Greek names.
Yeah.
And listen, I don't need to have a lot of plot with a romance novel for me to enjoy it. I've read other Katie Robert books that I've been like, yeah, I'm along for the ride. But this book just really wanted me to care about the plot. And the plot was bad and really incomplete. So all these things were happening and I was like, oh god, come on, just get back to the sexy stuff. Like, let's get these two back together in a room.
Yeah.
And it was just so disappointing because it could have been really cool. I feel like it had a lot of potential and it was really marketed, I think, well, and it's supposed to be kind of, I think, the book series that breaks Katie Robert out of her like erotica niche. Like I think it's being marketed as more like adult romance. But I just kept getting distracted by all the vagueness and the world building and just like frustrated with the interactions. And it takes a lot for me to get to that point, especially in a book where I wasn't expecting a lot. So it was a bummer for me. No, thank you, Katie Robert. I will still read probably your other books because sometimes I want to read that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't even remember
sucks,
that
though.
book and I read it. So
I refuse to read it because I do not need another Hades and Persephone retelling. Like,
That's
nobody needs any more of that shit.
yeah.
Except
Yeah.
for Lore Olympus.
Yeah.
That's the only time it's acceptable because that graphic novel series is amazing.
It's so
But
cute.
no thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah, it was disappointing. And I was like, come on, man, this does not need to be so long.
No.
So long and boring. I should not be bored in your sexy fantasy book.
Yeah.
No. I felt like that with, she has another series that I did not finish, and it's like 7 Brides for 7 Brothers. So it's like the 7 brothers, like one per book, and it's like this weird sci-fi colony, I don't know, dystopian,
Okay,
whatever.
hold on a second. What series?
I don't know what it's called. I think it's like 7 Brothers? I don't know. I'll send
Seems
you.
too easy.
I'll send you something. But like,
Okay.
I read 2 of them, and they were like okay. But there was so much trying to happen that I was like, what? What? I'm not here for that. Get back to the 7 brides for 7
You don't
brothers.
have to
Like
do so much. Yeah.
the women were sobbing. Okay, they were not. I was. But anyways, who's going first, Nikki? Are you going to take my choice?
I don't know. Well,
Should we say it on the count of 3?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Crave by Tracy Wolf.
Wow, who'd have thunk?
Wow. Yeah, I think that we can just have a little tiny discussion about this one. I don't even need to pick a different one. This is wow. I can't even say, like, Tilly was very nice. Like, this is just the most disappointing book. This is the worst book.
Yeah.
The worst book.
It's so bad.
Oh my god.
I read the second one, okay? It was worse. It was so
I
dull.
couldn't even make it.
It took me 6 months, okay? It was literal. Well, I shouldn't say literal. It was torture, okay? It was just awful.
Yeah.
The first
Yeah,
one.
I don't know.
Sorry, go for it, Nikki. Take it away.
No, I think that's it. I just don't know. I feel like I left this book being like, have I lost cognitive ability to think and problem solve in my daily life after reading this?
Yeah.
Because it hurt. Something's physically hurt me.
Yeah.
Like the titles of the chapters.
Oh my god. Let me tell you, they don't get any better in the second book. There's a chapter title in the second book that's like something about a potion, and not one potion was in that chapter. I'm like, what? Like, you're just putting words down on the page at this point. Like, any aspiring writers listening to this, whoever you are, don't lose hope, because if Tracy can get 7 books published,
7?
yes.
7.
And I don't want to be that bitch, but I'm going to be that bitch. She got away with murder, okay? If she can publish 7 books and be that successful, write your book. Get it out there, because wow, it is possible. Anything's possible. Like what a ride. I can't even talk. I'm just like, well, like
What is it even about?
So I'll tell you.
I would love that.
This girl.
what is it about?
What's her name? Grace?
Grace.
Grace. Her parents die in a car
A
crash.
tragic car accident. The car goes off the cliff.
Yeah.
Oh my
like
God.
Thelma and Louise.
Yeah.
But
That
like
is a strong start.
No.
you
Strong
don't see
and like
it.
bad, bold.
Well, the book starts after that when she's flying to Denali, Alaska, because Twilight, and she is going to stay at a boarding school that her uncle is the headmaster of, and her cousin Macy,
Yeah.
Macy attends. And everybody will not fucking tell her what's going on, and it's all for paranormal creatures. So
Yeah.
there's vampires and dragons and witches and shapeshifters and werewolves and whatever. And she is,
And then Grace.
and then
So the
Grace.
school is for paranormal creatures?
Yeah,
Is this supposed to be a Twilight like inspired thing?
yeah.
Okay.
The main boy gives her a copy of Twilight as a gift.
And she never reads
wow.
it.
No. Even though she's an avid reader, Little Miss Perfect over here is so cultured, and yet she doesn't know how to wear a scarf. She doesn't know how to make a snowball.
What? She doesn't know how to wear a scarf?
Yeah, she's from California, Tilly. She doesn't know anything, apparently.
What is there to know?
Apparently a lot.
Neck cold wrap around.
There's... They have this huge snowball fight, and she literally asks this boy Flint, who, shocker, turns out to be a dragon shifter. Who would have thought? Okay? She's like, how do I even make a snowball? And he's like, you just clump snow together into a ball. Like, hello. But this girl is so cultured that she walks through the cafeteria and hears a classical song. She's like, oh, yes, Dvorak's Noonday Witch. Like, bitch, shut up. I'm so mad. Tracy.
And it turns out at the end of all that, she's a gargoyle. The only one for centuries.
That is not sexy.
No, it's not.
Is it supposed to be?
I don't know, but it wasn't working that way.
No.
And
that's what
Jackson has a brother who died, but he came back, but now he's living in her head.
That's in the second book. Yeah.
So anyway, it was a dumpster fire, and they literally said things like WTF and FML.
And scary AF. Yeah.
And
Also,
there was a lot of like
not long
references.
ago. It was published in 2020, right during the pandemic, when no one had anything better to do than to pick this book up, I guess, and fund
2020,
Tracy's
and she's
retirement
written
fund.
6 other books since then. Like, she is just pounding them out.
Yeah. There's also, okay, so I wrote angry notes in the 2 books that I read. I will not be reading the 3rd book unless someone gives me a reason to, and maybe some funding for my mental health, honestly. So I wrote angry notes in the margins, and there's a part in, I don't know if it's the 1st or the 2nd book, but Tracy writes that Jackson says Grace's name almost like a prayer. And I'm like, Grace is a prayer, bitch. Like, I'm just so angry at these books because, like, where was the editor? And her bio says a one-time English professor of what school? Like Phoenix Online? I don't understand. If you went to Phoenix Online, good for you and my condolences. But like, I've heard some shady things about that school.
We are taking shots at this.
Oh, we have a
It just
whole
enrages
episode.
people. Like, oh,
Yes.
yeah.
If you're interested, listeners, we have a whole episode that will come out at some point about this book, if we want to call it a book. And we also have our Goodreads reviews, because I wrote a whole freaking essay on these 2. But, yeah, it was not good. And she tricked me into reading the 2nd one, Tracy did, because she had some kind of cliffhanger, and I was like, well, I need to know. And now I know, and I wasted half of the year trying to finish it. So, yeah, that's my worst book of the year.
And now to the best of the best.
Yes.
All right, we're taking a real upward climb here.
Thank
because
God.
Nikki, you are going to lose your mind when you read this book, and you have to read it. I read this month. I read Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. I waited a long time for my library hold to come in, and I am so glad, contrary to Neon Gods, I was so into this book. Holy shit. Okay, so if you like dark fantasy, if you like cerebral science fiction, if you like body horror, if you like murder mysteries, and like just shove it all together, and there's this enormous world that you can't even figure out for like the first half of the book, and just don't let that bother you. Just let it wash over you, because there are like bone necromancers and resurrected planets and this like haunted mansion that they're exploring with laboratories that have like ghosts and like giant undead creatures that are killing people off. It's nuts. It is such a good book. And the whole thing too is like narrated by this super snarky lesbian who is just like obviously in love with another character, and there's just like so much angst and snarkiness and humor, and I ate it up. I loved it. It was so smart. I definitely didn't understand a lot of it, and I just tried not to think about it too hard, because at the end it all worked out great, and it was an insane ending as well, so prepare yourself for that. I had a little tear. I can't wait to read the 2nd book. I think there's 3 or 4 maybe out now.
Okay.
And The cover art is also incredible. The cover art is an extremely good representation of what the book is. There's bones like flying everywhere. There's like fierce striding and like bone makeup. It's insane. Anyway, this book is so dang good, and I know that Nikki would love it. I think Kelly would like it too.
I'm sold already.
Yeah.
I kind of want to buy it tomorrow.
It's amazing.
Wait
But
till
just
after
don't stress
Christmas.
yourself out trying to figure everything out, because you won't, because they gradually share bits and pieces about the world.
That's good to know.
So just start small, just try and like figure out like what is this dynamic between these people, and then you'll eventually learn more and more and more, and then by the end
Cool.
you're like, okay, I understand where we are.
Yeah, I look at that book literally almost every time I'm in chapters,
It's so good.
and it looks so good. But I feel like somebody said there was like mixed reviews on like if it was, yeah, was it Kelly? That I
I've
was
just
like,
seen a lot of mixed reviews. I know a lot of
Oh,
people
yeah.
are like, what is happening? You know?
That's why I'm saying like don't stress yourself out about it,
Right.
because I think a lot of people just didn't understand the book and then got frustrated and like quit, which I think is fair, because it is very cerebral, like it's very intellectual in the world building, not in the dialogue. The dialogue is like very funny back and forth, but I don't know, I can't really explain it. I understand how some people wouldn't like it, but just stick with it. It's so good.
cool. Okay, yeah,
Interesting.
that's awesome. Good to know.
Yeah.
Okay. My favorite book of the year, surprisingly, is not by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I'm
Oh
sorry.
my God.
I know. She did release 2 books this year, and I really liked them. But I thought, let's give her a break because, yeah, I don't know.
Let's give her a break.
Yeah, I can't talk about her all the time, even though I just brought her up. But anyways, so my favorite book of the year, I think, I went back and forth, but I am going to go with The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. And so
Surprise, surprise.
yeah. And so the first book in the series, Once Upon a Broken Heart, was on my top 5 for last year, if you listen to that episode. And so I can't tell you much about the synopsis for this book because it is a sequel. But oh my God, when I finished the book, I was speechless. I was so shooketh. Like, I was trying to explain to Scott, my husband, how I felt and what happened, and I just could not get any words out. Like, I have not felt so shaken to the core in such a long time. Like, I found this review on Goodreads. It was this super long, detailed review of all of her feelings throughout the book, and I was like, yes, 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 1,000 times yes. Like, everything she said was exactly what I had felt. Stephanie Garber, her cliffhangers, oh my God, like, just so well done. And I can't believe, like, so I finished the book in 24 hours, just like the first one, loved it. And when I finished the book, I guess it was like within the first week of it coming out, and I guess a lot of people didn't know that there was going to be another one, so the ending really messed them up, and they were like, how could you? There's no way it's done. And when I was reading it, I was like, there's no way, like, there has to be a third one. And by the time I finished it, she had announced on Instagram that there would be a third book. So I was like, okay, I don't need to stress out too much. But oh my God, like, I am bugging everybody to read this book because it is just so good. Like, I really want to see Stephanie Garber write an adult book, because it's not that her YA is not good, because I keep telling people, please read her. Like, she is so good at what she does. But I'm really interested how she would write this kind of fantasy romance or fantasy in general through an adult lens, or like a bit more maturely, because this book, in the second book, the tension, oh my God. And it's a YA book. So, like, you're not going to get very steamy, even though, like, I'm sure there are some YA books that do get steamy, but, like, everything in this book is, like, so angsty, and the tension building, and you don't know who to trust. And then she throws in this crazy ass twist and cliffhanger, and I'm still freaking out about it. Like, I have no idea how it's going to end, and I love feeling like that with a book. Like, there are some cliffhangers where you're like, okay, at the end of the book, they said there's going to be a war. So it's like kind of a cliffhanger because you don't know how it's going to go, but you at least know what to expect in the next book. With this one, I have no idea what to expect, and I love that. Like, I have no idea what I'm in for. All I know is that I'm probably going to cry because it'll be done. And it's so amazing. So,
Yeah, I really liked the first one. It took me a little bit to get into it, just I think because of the circumstances like that I was like listening to it. Mm-hmm. But oh my god, like by the end, I was hooked on these characters.
Yeah,
So
I've been looking
good.
forward to reading it. I know it was one of your favorites last year,
yes.
and I think it sounds really great.
I was going to say something, but I changed my wording, I guess. I'm obsessed with Jax. I am just totally...
Reasonable.
Yes, I am head over heels. I want to be Evangeline Fox so bad. Oh my god, I could totally be her for Halloween. That would be amazing. But I freaking love it so much. And I said to you both, I was like, I never thought I'd be like into angsty romance. And you both were like, oh, really?
Yeah, because it's amazing.
It's so good. It's so good. Oh my god. Yeah. Anyways, I wish I could tell you what happens, but I can't because it's a sequel. So please pick up Once Upon a Broken Heart and then read The Ballad of Never After and then contact me through Instagram, whatever, not like directly. But like, if I know you, please come see me. But it is so good. If you're not shooketh, I don't know, you might be a robot. Like, it was insane. It was so good. Yeah.
I love that for you. Okay, this is it. This is the last one. This was my favorite book of 2022. I think it was the most substantial book I read in 2022 as well. I really did like a very easy reading year in terms of like what the content was, other than maybe the Goldfinch at the first of the year. That was pretty heavy.
Yeah.
But my favorite book of 2022 was Fairy Tale by Stephen King. And I loved this book so much that I wanted to read it all at once, and I made myself stretch it out because I never wanted to be done it. So he has like several categories of books for me. He has like short and fun, bad, and then he has like these really long, like very deep, eloquent reads, and this was one of those. So the book was quite long. It was about 800 pages, and like the title suggests, of fairy tale. So we have a 17-year-old boy named Charlie Reed, and one day he is walking past this old man's home and he hears his dog freaking out and the man is yelling, and he goes back to help him and the man has fallen, and he ends up taking care of this guy's dog while he's in the hospital, and then in turn taking care of the man. And they, even though the man's like really old and crotchety, they develop this kind of bond, and it is found that the man is guarding something very important that nobody can know about in his back shed. And it is a tunnel that goes way down into a fairy tale world.
Oh.
And so as the story progresses, he has a reason to go down into this place. Obviously, things happen which make it so he can't get out. And you meet a lot of characters that are very reminiscent of characters you would have read about when you were younger. There's kind of like an Emerald City aspect, like Rumpelstiltskin, Cinderella, like all of those kinds of things. You get the traditional fairy tale bad guy, but at the same time you're watching a young boy grow into a man and learn about responsibility and the value of like friendship and family and doing what's right versus doing what's easy and like what is maybe the like most trodden path. So I cried like a lot during this book.
Oh.
Probably within the first 50 pages I was already kind of crying a little bit, but it just had everything that you could want in a book. And it just like, it really drew me in from the very beginning. And Stephen King doesn't have a lot of books like this, but I think it's definitely one of his best ones.
Wow.
So that's my
That sounds
favorite.
great.
Yeah, it was like so touching and like heartwarming and everything. It was everything.
What would you say the
Wow.
genre is? Because at work we have it in the horror section, and I'm like,
It's definitely not horror. I
Yeah.
would say it is like kind of
Fantasy?
like, yeah, like fantasy. There are like urban aspects because they are in like our real world for some of it. But yeah, I would just say fantasy. Like it's definitely not horrific in any way.
yeah,
and
It
It's
sounds
not
like
gross.
really different
Yeah.
for Stephen King. I remember reading some reviews that were like, this was not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
And it's really long, too.
Very long, but I don't
Sounds
know,
great.
there are some books of his where I find his writing really slow, but I found even though the book was long, the writing was very intentional, and I would go like through 10 pages and be like, oh, I can't believe I read that much, because everything flowed so nicely. It wasn't like, oh, why are we getting all of this description for nothing? Like it really did like continue and unfold very easily.
okay.
So that's nice.
It's sitting on my shelf, staring at me. Like, but I am excited to read it because it sounds good, and the cover is so nice.
The cover is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just came out this year, right?
Yeah, like in September, I think.
I
Or
think so.
August.
It's been a bestseller at work like since it came out. Like
Yeah.
we have so
Oh,
many
wow.
copies. Yeah, every time people come in the store, they're like, "Do you have Fairy Tale?" I'm like, "Yeah, we have it on display there, and in the aisle." Like it's Colleen Hoover and Fairy Tale by Stephen King. I'm like, "Yeah, it's everywhere." Like, did you look? You did not.
That's so funny. I love that.
That sounds great. Maybe you've convinced me to read it. Maybe it'll be my first Stephen King book.
It's a good
your
one to start
first
with, I
one.
think, because it's not weird.
Not too intense.
It's not like Stephen King weird. So
Right.
I think it's a good foray into his work.
Okay, cool.
Oh my god, we made it. We did it.
We did it.
We did the whole thing. Thank you all so much for listening to this first episode of our third season of the Bring Your Own Book podcast. If you'd like to see more from us, you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok to keep up to date on all the things that we're getting up to. I want to thank Tilly again for being on this episode with us. I hope that you found some new reads to try out in 2023. Also, keep an eye out for our next episode where we dive into our thoughts on Crave by Tracy Wolff. Hope you all had a good 2022 and you're sliding into the new year with good vibes. Cheers! Next time on the Bring Your Own Book podcast. I stand at the outer tarmac door staring at the plane I am about to get on and try my hardest not to freak out.